I'm Pat Moyer, and this week a special edition of Impact as we take a spring break March Madness road trip to McPherson. Why McPherson? To share a remarkable basketball story, in many ways the story of the origins of modern-day basketball. The first U.S. Olympic basketball team, gold medal winners, the coach and team that introduced fast-breaking offenses, full-court zone pressure, and even the dunk itself. All these things credited to a basketball team from McPherson, Kansas, more than 3/4 of a century ago. It's a fascinating story that even includes Adolf Hitler and Nazi Germany. And it's straight ahead on Impact. McPherson is a central Kansas community of about 13,000. The refinery is not only a major part of the landscape still today, but also a huge part of the culture and history of McPherson. In the 1930s, the Globe Refinery sponsored a basketball team, arguably the best team in basketball. Billed as the tallest team in the world, the McPherson Refiners changed the way the game was played. You might be saying to yourself, why haven't I heard this story? Later in the program, we'll share with you a brief film that's been made by the city of McPherson to celebrate a story that every basketball fan can appreciate. First, let's go to McPherson and meet a couple of the key storytellers.
We just have this great tradition in Kansas of basketball, and we're thrilled to be a part of it because basketball is a big deal in McPherson. We have lots of state champions. Our college has done really well. I've lived here about 6 years, and when I started the Convention and Visitors Bureau 4 years ago, we had a trolley tour that went around, was a historical tour, and we kind of mentioned as we went by the community building, oh, this is where the 1936 gold medal, champions played. But I started delving into it and got kind of excited about the story.
Rich Hughes lived the first 10 years of his life in McPherson, but had not even heard the story of the famous basketball team until years later.
There was no publicity about it. There was no McPherson home of the 1936 Olympic basketball champions, nothing of that. And it wasn't until 2004 that I actually knew that there was such a thing as the McPherson Refiners basketball team. I'd been reading about the history of the dunk, and in that they said the dunk was actually invented by the McPherson Refiners, and so that was quite shocking to me.
The best way to get your name in the newspaper that time was to have it associated with a winning ball team. So you had the McPherson Globe Refiners, you had the Newton Railers, I believe. There were a couple of Kansas City ones that were associated with different companies. You even had the Wichita Henrys, and Henrys was a clothing store.
I did some research, found out it was a real team, and it was a really, really good team with a lot of characters and a lot of accomplishments. They used the zone press, really the first team to popularize that, and that was one of their hallmarks. They could press all over the court, make a lot of steals, get an easy basket at the other end. It seems kind of automatic, but basketball at that time was slow. People would dribble up the court. They might pass it 5 or 10 or 20 times before even attempting a shot. So that was, it was really different and like I say, an invention by the Refiners coach, Gene Johnson.
If you read his interviews in Time magazine or the New York Daily News at the time, he would kind of talk smack. He would say things like, we're the best bad basketball team you've ever seen. We play a helter-skelter game all over the court, but he knew how to promote his teams.
Yeah, Gene Johnson was courageous, I guess, in the respect that he let his players play. He let them play fast. He let them dunk. But he expected them to win, and he drove them to these accomplishments and these heights through his efforts. So Gene Johnson, I guess, going back, he had success at Wichita State, really good coach there, and then he moved on to the AAU leagues and kind of the semi-professional leagues after his stint at Wichita State.
So how did a really good basketball team from McPherson, Kansas get to the Olympics? Well, by winning the National Amateur Athletic Union Championship in New York's Madison Square Garden. The Refiners and the best players from the runners-up were combined, and they represented the U.S. in the 1936 Olympic Games in Berlin.
Their major counterpart, or the other component, the other half of the U.S. Olympic basketball team, was from Hollywood, California. And so they were sponsored by Universal Pictures, and that's just really crazy odd that a team out here in the middle of Kansas working at a refinery, that would be half the U.S. Olympic basketball team, and then kind of the glamour and glitz of Hollywood, that was the other half of the basketball team. So, just strange in their comparisons like that.
Even when we give tours to 5th grade students, their ears kind of perk up when we talk about the Olympic gold medal team, because that puts it in a term they can understand what the Olympics and a gold medal is. So I think we're getting the story out in the community itself a lot more. People have grown up here and not really known the whole story, but it's kind of making it my job to, at least every 5th grader that comes through is going to get that history, and then when they go out into the bigger world, they can share that story. So it's an important part of our history, but it's also important and part of our present, because we still have their home court here in the McPherson Community Building, and efforts are underway to fix that building up and maybe have a visitor center where the home court was, with some sort of display telling the history of the team, and we're in the process of raising funds for that. So this has been a really good tool for us to send out to try and help spread the story and garner some support for it.
Rich Hughes has written the book. The city of McPherson has told the story in the documentary film. But if you ask Rich, this is a story that could be the basis of a major motion picture.
Obviously the media today is movies, and maybe a full-length motion picture might do justice to this subject. But coming out of the Depression, coming out of Mid-America, that would be certainly part of the aspect. Playing basketball at a level literally that no one had ever played before. You could have just the promotion of basketball and the interest of basketball developing, around it as a spectator sport would be aspects of it. I could see something, around Hoosiers kind of theme, with a lot of basketball being played, maybe on this court here, some reenactments like that. I think any of the players, any of the actors would have to lose a lot of weight, because most of these McPherson players and most of the basketball players then were skinny. They were maybe 6'8" and 180 pounds, so they were didn't have the calories, didn't have the diet that they do today.
Netting Out Basketball, 1936, by Rich Hughes, is available for purchase, either paperback or ebook. The film, Oil and Gold, the McPherson Globe Refiners basketball story, is also available to view online. You'll find the links on the Impact page here at kpts.org.